We're back in studio now and we're about to discuss an issue that is really important to everyone in the farming community, and that is farm safety. We are joined by an exemplary panel here to discuss how we get around farm safety in Ireland, despite the numerous campaigns, national, regional, local, farm level campaigns that have taken place in recent years to help get the numbers down. And I don't like saying the word numbers, but to help get our record lower on this issue. It doesn't seem to be working. So here to discuss the issue with me, I have Kieran Roach from FBD. We have John McNamara from Teagasc, Angela Hogan, who suffered a great loss herself due to a farming accident. We have Pat Griffin, who is a senior inspector at the HSA, and farm safety advocate Peter Gorey here to talk about it. Pat, if I can go to you first. As I was outlining there, Pat, this is a recurring issue. It's becoming more serious on Irish farms every year. In 2017, the HSA recorded 24 farm-related deaths. We have the highest record for highest industry record for an 8th year in a row. Where is the main issue, Pat, that you can see? Is it a mindset change that is really needed? Do we see farms as more of a family place than a workplace?
Well, that's part of the problem for sure. Farmers have to see their workplace as a workplace and try to treat it as such, and keep young children out and decide on who's doing the job and who can be around the place. You say that the situation is not improving, and absolutely we are very disappointed with 24 deaths last year. Actually 25, one has been reclassified. So there's 25 deaths in actually 2017. We're at 16 this year and we're very disappointed. All of us here on the panel work very, very hard on farm safety within Farm Safety Partnership or with Embrace Farm or with Teagasc or FBD. We're doing huge amounts of work. I think farmers really have to take personal responsibility for controlling their operation, and they have to look upon it as in a broader aspect and plan their work more and try to control the whole situation, because there's many farmers and farm families sadly have lost someone, and they know, with a moment's thought, to stand back for a moment when they're doing something, when they get a gut feeling that maybe this isn't really safe. If people listen to their senses and listen to their gut feeling about things and take a step back and analyse what they're doing, we might actually stop some of these deaths. Our approach within the HSA is to provide as much information to farmers as possible in relation to the risks that they're facing. We have analysed farm fatalities and farm injuries over the last 10-20 years. We're focusing now in on the major issues. In our stand at the ploughing, we demonstrate and focus on the issues that are killing people year in, year out. We've got huge amounts of information, but it's useless if farmers don't listen and use it and try to change what's on the ground. We've produced a very simple approach in farm safety with the code of practice, simple checklists, and this is happening across the world. Myself and John McNamara travelled to Norway last week to see what's happening right across from Australia to America and all across Europe. They're all doing the same thing. They're trying to make safety as simple as possible for farmers, and we have done that. And the code of practice is there, guidance is there, but I think in the heat of the moment, the farmer goes out, doing his work, probably trying to do too much in a day, and doesn't give enough time to planning. And a little bit of planning, I think, could stop a lot of these deaths.
And what about the perception issue, the perception of farms as a family place, as a safe place, as opposed to being a working farm, a business, a dangerous place to be with risks involved? Do you think that there is a disconnect there in how we perceive farms?
Yeah, and I think that's partly because of the way farms have developed in Ireland. There's the farmhouse and then there's the farmyard right outside the back door. and you're into the farmyard and the working environment. There's very little separation in most farmsteads. It would be far better if we had the farmhouse built, a half mile up the road, and you had the farmyard. I know it creates other difficulties, but it's a separation, and that's what we need. We need to get farmers to actually separate their home life from their farming life and treat it as a business. And once you go down there, treat it as a workplace and have controls in relation to it, particularly around tractors and machinery, because half of these deaths, 210, 211 in the last 10 years, half of them have involved tractors and machinery. And if we know that, let's focus on that and control all the activity around the tractor. Most of the deaths around tractors are happening with people being reversed over or impacted. So it's people out in the ground. It's not the actual operator of the tractor. It's people around that shouldn't be around, whether it's an elderly father who gets in the wrong place or a child. So, farmers really need to think about separating their home life from the farm itself and treat it as a business, as an enterprise, and put in certain controls that they know they should have there. And if they do that and put a bit more planning, I think we can reduce these deaths.
John, if I can bring you in on the age demographic. Sadly, in a lot of cases, it's around 55 and over where we're seeing the majority of deaths and accidents. What about the challenge there of changing behaviours, changing habits? Are you seeing some positive moves there, or what's the circumstance like at the moment?
No, first of all, Teagasc, we're very disappointed with the way accidents are going, and we're going to do everything we can to reduce them. Now, the age demographic, the average age of a farmer is about 58 or 59, so that means that half the farmers in Ireland are over that age. Now, in recent years, a very disproportionate level of accidents occurs in the older demographic, and that's unsurprising. That older farmers, slower in both mind maybe and slower in body, and that is a worldwide trend. Now, what can we do about it? I think the first thing we must do is to seek to influence older farmers and to get people to realise the issues around farm accidents. Right, a simple one, and I want to emphasise it, is tractors, as Pat Griffin has said, is getting knocked down by tractors. A tractor at 8 kilometres an hour moves at 2.2 metres a second, and that's what's happening. People are getting knocked down or killed. So we need to get older farmers to realise the issues. Now, the bull is the same, and indeed the cow is the same. That they move at a very fast pace and that. So having being aware of the issues, especially the ones that affect older farmers, is crucial. Now, it's not just the older farmer. I think all the family around must be involved in farm safety. Sometimes older people, that they've done it all their lives and maybe they've got away with it, and they mightn't realise the dangers, but they can be influenced by maybe, I have to say, a daughter maybe, or a son, or dare I say it, a grandson or a grandniece. So there are influences, and we need to tap into the influences there are towards older people. And I think the third issue, I think we're in an expanding farming era at the moment. There's more work to be done on farms generally, and older farmers could be inclined to do more work, to help out and to fill a gap, as it were, and feed calves and whatever else. We can do a lot on work organisation to cut workload, so that older farmers don't have to do work that is unnecessary. I just want to promote Teagasc, and indeed agricultural consultants do half-day training, and we discuss all these issues, and we want to motivate people, and particularly older farmer issues are discussed in that, and it's in the front of the risk assessment document, so that it is discussed first.
Angela, if I can bring you in now, Angela. I know you suffered a great loss back in 2011 with your partner Brendan. who passed away from a tragic farm accident. Behind all these numbers is the human story, and a split-second decision, small discrepancy, can have lifelong changes. Can you just tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, about what happened to Brendan?
Brendan was an agricultural contractor, and it was in July when the accident happened, 14th July. The day was very sunny, weather was really good, so it was perfect conditions for baling, and he was extremely busy with everyone ringing, wanting him to be on their farm next to, to bale and that, So the farmer that he was baling for, he had just baled the first bale, and he had to go into the machine to release a switch because there's a build-up of dust in the machine or something. So he was killed instantly then. So that was our story.
Very sorry to hear that, Angela. And of course, this is something then that the families and friends have to live with afterwards, which really just emphasises the importance of really making changes in this area. What has it been like for you since then? With Brendan, was farm safety a priority for him, or how has it changed your outlook on?
Yeah, Brendan's nature, he would always take his time before making a decision on doing anything. When the accident happened, the community were completely shocked. They said he was the last person they expected the accident to happen to. He would never rush things or that, So it was just such a shock to the whole community, So obviously now I have a son. We have a son and daughter, and for me, farm safety would be a priority. That my son would be very aware of farm safety as he's grown up, So.
Peter, if I can bring you in as well. Peter, you also suffered a farm accident yourself a number of years ago, and you've campaigned very, very hard on farm safety over the last number of years. What's your view on what needs to happen in terms of training, and what measures do you think need to be taken to really address and tackle the issue?
I suppose, look, we all need to up our game in farm safety. The problem I see out there, a lot of people are doing talking, but they're not delivering the goods to actual farmers. The big problem is we need a mentor program, is the way I look at it. And I know the lads are going to criticise it, but it actually worked very well in Sweden, where it reduced the death rate by 45%, and in the final year it reduced the death rate to 0. Now we need to try something different, because the figures there have proven that what's there at the moment is not working. Like, you take it here, 2 years ago, the sign outside said 190. Now we're gone to 210 in the last 10 years. Problem is there's not enough being done at farm level. There's not enough of programs. We're not able to draw the farmer in to do these programs. I suppose mentor program could start at national school level, could work into secondary school level, and when they're trained in, they're going on to third level. I was looking for, one of the things I would have been pushing was in agricultural science. There's no module in there on farm safety, where the kids are still at home on the farm, and they could be poking daddy or mammy and saying, look at these dangers that's out there on the farm. And to be asking a question at leaving cert level, it would tune them in a little bit more. And then the next thing, they're gone. They're gone into Chagas, they do maybe 2-3 days, a little bit of safety module, and that's it. We're throwing them out onto farms. The farmers need to be educated. We need to have safer farms out there, because the consequences is huge on it.
Kieran, if I can bring you in there now as well. Kieran, you're FBD's Insurance Risk Manager and Vice Chairman of the Farm Safety Partnership. Kieran, you've been involved in numerous campaigns to raise awareness on farm safety. Are you seeing a mindset change on the ground?
Yeah, well, I'm from a dairy farm myself, and I've been with FBD since 1999, so I've seen a lot of change, a lot of positive change. So if we look at the safety statement in 99, only about 5% of farmers had a safety statement. Now that number is over 50%. But if you don't enact what's on that safety statement, it's on a piece of paper. So you shouldn't just do it because it's a legal requirement. FBD are really committed, to ensuring the safety of farmers and to playing our role in safety. I think since about 2005 we've issued about 85,000 farm safety signs to farms highlighting issues in relation to tractor safety, livestock safety and children on the farm. I think the facts say that the fatality numbers aren't decreasing at the moment. The number of injuries on farms aren't decreasing either. So more work is needed and has to be done. And to me, and I think probably most of the panel here would be in agreement, and maybe in your opening comment you alluded to it in relation to mindset, it's about behavioural change that we need. Behavioural change isn't simple. It takes huge commitment from a farmer. It's like if we look at the start of every year, people make New Year's resolutions. Many of those are gone by the mid of January or end of January. This is a commitment to life and how you change how you do your work. And make one simple change at a time, because it's easier to do it if you just change slowly. So it might be in relation to your tractor. If we look at where the fatalities are, we have tractors, machinery number one, followed by livestock, falls from heights, and then drowning and slurry incidents. But if we look at those four issues and the farmers concentrated on each one of those and made one or two simple changes, that's where I think we'll make the difference. Earlier this year, FBD launched our latest safety campaign, which was titled Farm Protect. And it's about farmers making small little changes in behaviour and working practices to make their farm a safer place. So I think we have an awful long way to go. I think we have to work together. I think Peter's probably right in relation to when we talk about peer-to-peer. I think farmers looking at another farmer farming safely will copy that farmer or be influenced by that's an unsafe way to do work. So I think we have to remind each other as a farming community of how to farm safe. And if we're not doing it correctly, maybe in a friendly way, talk to our farming friend and say, listen, well, this might be a safer way to do it, or there isn't a cover on that PTO shaft. So I think it's working together as a community is how we're going to get that real effect. And I think all of us here on the stage have a role to play in that, the farming communities, the HSA, Teagasc, and I think as a team together, we can make farms a safer place. But we need everyone to go on that journey with us.
Pat, you mentioned before about the possible need to take a harder line on this and possibly linking farm safety in more stringent ways to direct payments under the Common Agricultural Policy. Is that long term? Do you think that is the solution?
It may be, but I don't really think there's any one solution in the farming area. I mean, if we knew that one solution, we'd get out there and try to apply it. In relation to farm payments, I'm always surprised the number of farmers that come up to me and say that the only way to solve this is to link it. It could be tried. I think it should be done in a positive way, though. And that's in the gift of the Department of Agriculture, not the Health and Safety Authority. So
how would you propose?
I would propose, what I'd like to see, I really think that there is a skills deficit in agriculture. If you think about it, every farmer in this country can go out and buy any machine here to ploughing and get it delivered to his farm. He's handed over the keys and there's no training. And he, best of luck with that now, off you go. These are very complex machines. Any tractor you buy now and sit into the cockpit of it, it's like a bloody airplane. It's not, when I was driving tractors, they're very, very simple. So I think there's a skills deficit. I know Teagasc do a lot of training on the ground in their ag colleges, but I'm talking about farmers that have done very, very little training over the last 15, 20 years. Buying these machines, buying complicated machines, they need training, but they won't go to training at the moment. So what I'd like to set up, and this has to be discussed with the Department of Agriculture, is that if we had a system set up by, let's say, pick a date in the future, let's say 2022. From that day forward, a farmer that applies for his single farm payment would have to submit a certificate to show that he's done 1 day's training on farm safety in that previous year. And we would set up 10 different courses: tractor operation, machinery operation, tractor machinery maintenance, livestock safety, working at height, even go into smart technology within it, even include first aid in it, include retirement, because farmers don't retire, and that is one of the problems. So if they had a big suite of training courses that they could go to that are very practical on-the-ground training courses that would up their skill level in how to operate machinery and deal with livestock, and had to submit a certificate every year to show that they've done one training course. I think after 5 years, the skill levels within the Irish farming community would be absolutely changed. There'd be far safer operations, and there's no loss to the farmer if it's done properly. There's other ways. I mean, you could apply a bonus. You know, we're thinking about all these things within the authority. Even we're looking at how we approach farm safety in relation to the mix of inspection and promotion that you see here, or is there other ways that we can deal with it? Is there focus groups that we need to do? We're going to do focus groups with elderly farmers now to really understand their mindset. You started off this session by saying that, you know, things are very bad, and they are very bad. I grant that. But I think if everyone around the table here weren't doing what they were doing, it could be a hell of a lot worse. When I started working on farm safety about 15 years ago, there were 6 and 7 children killed every single year. It's down to 1 now, and even that is an abomination. But you know, that has changed. We have changed the level of deaths to children on the farm. The numbers of people killed with PTO shafts has nearly disappeared. Although the minute you say that, something could happen tomorrow, and farmers don't put enough emphasis on keeping their PTO shafts. So we have had some successes, but what we're facing here is an ageing workforce. Farmers are getting older. There's not enough young people going in. We need to get more young people in. We need to get farmers that are ageing to change what they're doing. And we don't want them to stop farming. We want them to keep active, keep involved, but change what they're doing and look at the risks they're facing. But the last point I'll say is that we have expansion. There's 400,000 extra in the herd. There's more grass being cut. There's a lot more risk. So, you know, it could be a lot worse, but certainly we need improvements.
We'll leave it there now. Thank you very much, Pat, and thank you all for sharing your stories and raising those very, very important points. So we'll leave it there, and now